I want to talk about the friendships on And Just Like That. So a couple of days ago, I saw this article: would Carrie, Charlotte, and Miranda even be friends anymore? And they had quotes from Cynthia Nixon basically being like, maybe, but probably not. One of the things that's interesting about And Just Like That, and interesting, you could take that to mean in a good way or a bad way, but one of the things that's interesting is that we don't get a lot of scenes of the three women together, right? We have scenes where they're having brunch with Anthony or with Seema. There's always like an imaginary fourth or like a sort of stand-in fourth, right? Because you need the fourth person there to complete the like, literary theory of the four personalities, right? And it's actually interesting because the reason that those scenes are always sort of clunky is because the fourth is never really someone that is an effective counterpoint to the other three, right? Anthony is sort of bawdy and aggressive and sexual like Samantha, but he is not a woman. So he's always coming from a different place than the other three ladies, right? LTW is very similar to Charlotte. She's driven, she's accomplished, she's successful, she has a good family life, but she isn't like a counterpoint, right? She is very similar to Charlotte and very similar to Miranda in a lot of ways. Seema is, again, very powerful, very self-possessed, very intense, but at her core, she still does want love, unlike Samantha, who very famously was like libidinous and just wanted to like hook up and do whatever. Seema ultimately does want a family life, or like she wants a partner, which makes her very different from Samantha in that way. And so the scenes of the four characters never really work, so we have a lot of scenes of either the three of them meeting or all of them sort of off in their own journeys. So the question becomes, would the ladies still be friends in And Just Like That time? And it's sort of an interesting question because you have to think about their like individual arcs. Miranda moving to Brooklyn, working 90 hours a week, it's kind of hard to imagine that she would be like out at brunch every day or like having breakfast the way she did in the original series. But then as her career sort of slowed down and she started a new career after the second movie, it's like, okay, maybe she still has time to like hang out. Not to revive my beef from other posts, but if you follow my cultural analysis playlist, you know that I've often said that the people most likely to excise themselves from social situations are parents, right? Like when that The Cut article went viral, the whole thing was like, well, I have a baby now, I can't hang out. Charlotte has two kids, but we also know that she would have prioritized her friendships because she was a stay-at-home mother, right? She didn't want to completely lose herself to this identity as mother. So again, it's a 50-50. Carrie being the cool downtown girl married to the finance guy, it would have been interesting because, like, yes, she still would have had a lot of time to hang out with her friends, but, like, are they really hanging out? What this ultimately reminded me of was the three ladies from the Three Gossiping Divas, as one famous user on here said, from this season of The White Lotus, right? In that final monologue, they say, well, Carrie Coon's character says that she feels that she has to stay in this friendship because it gives her meaning, right? Or like she has centered her life around men and her children and work, and all of those failed. So this friendship sort of revives her and keeps her afloat. And I can kind of see something similar for the Sex and the City women, where obviously they are very different and their lives ended up very differently. But at the same time, it's like you've been friends for 20, 30 years. Are you really going to stop hanging out because one of you has kids and one of you lives in Brooklyn? Like, even if they're not hanging out every day, I can believe that they're hanging out once a month. So I think for me, this falls on a scale of like optimism to cynicism, right? Like the optimistic side of me, and obviously And Just Like That exists, but they very rarely hang out. It's like, yeah, they would see each other once a month. They would like do something to just like keep their friendship alive. Carrie would probably see Miranda and Charlotte more than they were all seeing each other. Or the side of cynicism where it's like, well, Charlotte wouldn't really want to hang out with them because she has people like LTW and the other moms. But we know from the original show that Charlotte sort of chafes against those expectations, right? That episode where she started hanging out with those Connecticut, like Upper East Side mom ladies, and she was like, I hate these people. Like, I cannot actually spend all my time with them. When Miranda went to LA, she found that her personality was like a little bit too intense for certain types of people. So I can also see her not wanting to hang out with like lawyers or other people like her. Would she find a new queer friend group of like women in their 50s? Probably, but Miranda's also a relationship person. She like jumps into relationships. She is not a friend girl. She is a boyfriend slash they them slash partner girl, which is kind of a horrifying realization to come to if you love the original series, to find out that on Just Like That, Miranda is someone who like completely loses themselves in their relationships. Carrie also sort of seems like the type of person who would kind of be around, but kind of not the most like intimate, emotional friend. So yeah, I think it's a 50-50. I think the article is right. Like, would Charlotte and Miranda be friends in their 50s? Probably not. I don't think they're hanging out one-on-one without Carrie, but I'm going to side on the side of optimism and just say I think that they're all hanging out.